Good afternoon. Can you guys hear me out there today? I hope you can. Morgan can.
I can hear you.
Hey, we can hear you as well.
Yay.
Yeah, we got good sound. We got good video. We're doing okay. Good afternoon.
5x5.
Yeah, 5x5. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you might be in the world today. Please let us know where you're from. If you're new here, we always like to know where people are from. With me today is a special co-host. This is Morgan Pierce. You guys have seen him on the show before. And he's going to ask some questions. He's going to try and help us answer some questions today. And we're going to see if we can get things going. I'm using a different microphone today. As you guys can tell, let me know if the audio is okay, if it's too loud, if it's too soft, and we'll make the adjustments as required. Say, Morgan, how's things going with you?
Things are going well. I just dashed back from the pool. I left my wife with 2 small children, so that will end great. But other than that, yeah, you can see I've got one printer over here. You can't quite see it. There we go. Torn apart there a bit. Trying to fix some hot end issues. This guy is printing some awesome.
Awesome. Oh, we went from awesome to your audio cut out. Yeah, your audio cut out. I cannot hear you. Well, he's showing something cool. See what happened. Oh, now it came back. There, now it's back.
Okay, yeah, if you see that light turn red, I've done something stupid.
Oh, okay. All right.
Anyways, yeah, just printing some of these very cool Falcor Good Luck Dragons. Been printing boatloads of them, as you can see. They're
nice.
Fully articulated. Let's do that. So yeah, lots of articulation there.
Very cool.
Yeah,
I'm in
really
the
cool
process of printing helmets. Lots.
Oh, fantastic.
And lots of helmets for a client.
Oh.
I have to get bigger machines if I'm going to continue to print helmets, so I don't have to print million small parts.
That's what these two are great for helmets. These two.
Yeah, they're nice and big.
The ship behind me.
Yeah, there we go. Hey, Sheldon Grant is first out of the gate this morning. He says, I'm considering the TH3D Easy ABL Pro. How do you feel about it? And do you recommend it for the longer LK1 or CR-10S? My personal opinion is he's got a good product. It works. If you're still very inexperienced with how to set up Marlin firmware or how to install firmware, it can be a bit of a challenge. Tim has made it fairly easy for the firmware, but at times it doesn't work with everything. And normally what I'll tell people is if you're going to go with auto bed leveling and you're putting it on a CR-10S, then I would absolutely, hands down, get a BL Touch personally. But other than that on the LK1, I've had the longer. Not a big fan of that particular printer. I don't know if the board will accept a BL Touch or some other sort of method to do auto bed leveling. Is there
firmware open source?
No, longer LK1. It's supposed to be because they're using Marlin, but I don't believe they've ever released the firmware fully to the public.
So
I could be wrong.
Unless it's supported by default out of the firmware, you're kind of hooped there, right?
Yeah, their board doesn't allow for a lot of extra things. Because if I remember right, the LK1 has a proprietary board that they've come up with. So, and it's it's an 8-bit or a 16-bit board, one or the other. So it's not super tidy. What else we got there today? There, Jerry Jer. Oh, nobody else. Oh, there we go. What do you think of PD printers? PD Tech printers. Morgan, have you got any thoughts on that?
Run.
PD Tech printers.
Just one thought.
Just one thought, run. Okay. Jeff, my personal opinion about Keytech, I've worked on a couple. I'm not a big fan of them. They basically are the same trash box that comes with a lot of printers that look like that. And there are step ups to go to. And if I were going to go for a Keytech printer, if you're going for the fully enclosed, hands down, I'd probably go with what is that? The FlashForge, Creator board, Creator, or the Creator Pro. If you look at the FlashForge and you look at the Keytech, they look almost identical, but FlashForge has a much better service department in my mind.
Yeah, they're probably ripping off FlashForge in some capacity.
A lot of companies use that same case.
I have no actual factual knowledge of that, but you just look at the design and you're like, oh, well, okay.
Well, it's like a lot of companies that are out there today. I mean, they all buy the same case and, build it the way that they want to build it. Now, based on the company, Keytech, they've been around for a little while now, but they're not the most reliable company, and they're not the most reliable product that I've seen in the past, because I've had a chance to work on them, and I'm not thrilled with them.
Yeah, I think the marketing, it's like for me, I'm a user here, and the marketing is what attracts you. I think I even talked to you once about a Keytech, and you ushered me away from that. So
yeah, I would much rather go with a better.
In, and then you got to do your homework on it, and you got to ask people like Richard. Ask the community, and even if you don't see anything directly from the community in response, look back 6 months in the forums or wherever that community lives, and see what people are saying about it, and that'll give you your answer for 90% of the printers out there.
If you look at some of the other designs that are out there, like from HP, and then you've got other companies that have been around for a long time. Wanhao. Look at a Wanhao printer. You'll see 6 different printers that are the exact same design. Wanhao is a better company. They have better QR. But all these companies that come out of China are all guilty of the same thing. They'll throw something at the wall and see if it sticks. And unfortunately, we as the consumers are all sort of stacked in line to test them for them and tell them what's wrong with it. And then
this one here, that's a classic example of that.
Okay.
So this is the JG Maker, formerly JG Aurora, I believe.
Right.
Artist-D, which is just for dual. You can see it has dual extruders there. And there's definitely I would not have said that this is market ready release. However, as is the trend, in China, a lot of stuff is released before it's ready for market. In many people's opinions. So you're taking a bit of a risk there, especially with something that's new. This was a completely new one to the market, and so they just don't have the development cycles and the R&D to go deep into that before and make it a fully fledged product. So they know that. They architect it that way simply. So
exactly. And at the end of the day, you got to kind of think to yourself, do I want something that's quality, or can I only afford this? And it really comes down to the budget dollars. If you were new to 3D printing, I would steer you away from everything and send you straight to an Ender 3. And the reason I would do that is, first and foremost, it's easy to assemble, it's easy and fast to get up and running, and it's pretty straightforward once you've got things dialed in. Now, I've seen printers that have come to me that have just been in atrocious setups where they were totally built wrong screws in wrong places. But at the end of the day, it's a learning experience. And this is something that I think all manufacturers suffer from. A lot of them don't have great instruction to assemble what they send you. A perfect example is the older versions of Wanhao's and what's the other company that starts with an A, and it's slipping my mind right now. But a lot of these companies, they don't have good documentation to support their product. So that's where I think Creality stepped up their game, and this is why I'll promote them all day long. First and foremost is that they've stepped up their game in the way that they present their product to the customer. Fastest and easiest way to do it, 4 bolts, you're done, you're on your way. Things are stacked in on top of one another, and it's very, very easy.
And they've been good too in that, you know, they've listened to their community.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they've realized that, okay, a lot of people are throwing on BL touches or easy touches or whatever, and so they made their own. It's plug and play. You pop it on, you do what the instructions say, it just works.
Yeah, exactly.
So they sort of streamline that for the end user.
And that's a really good way of doing it. And they've also made all of their source code open source so that everybody can grab not only the hex files if they want a hassle-free setup, or they can get the raw source code, which is a great thing for people like you and I who have a little bit of a knowledge of how things work on the inside and can manipulate the firmware if we need to.
Yeah. But to that point, I mean, if anyone's brave enough, you follow a walkthrough guide that shows you exactly what to do, exactly what lines to change, and you don't change anything else, and you back up your configuration files. It's not rocket science.
No, it's not. It really isn't. Yep. And the way that I suggest a lot of people do it is if they get the raw source code file, or even if they just get a raw version of Marlin, take the original, make a copy of it, and then name the original as .old or old, and it won't show up as a config file. Your new copy of that will show up as a config file. That way you always have the original to refer back to. And it doesn't matter if you're building your own firmware from start with Marlin or you're getting somebody else's. That's what I recommend first and foremost, is make a copy of that.
Unless you have some other questions, that actually might be an excellent segue into an Ender 3 problem, or we can save it for later. Just
let's table that for one moment because I have to pay some bills.
Pay some bills. Always.
Yeah, we got to pay the bills, and right now we want to thank our sponsor for our shows here on the First Layer. They are Mars Hydro. Mars Hydro has all of the indoor horticultural equipment that you'll ever need to get up and growing all year round. Doesn't matter what you're growing. If you're growing vegetables, flowers, doesn't matter. It's a great environment. They get everything. You can get kits as low as $279 Canadian, and that'll get you a tent and all the equipment that you're going to need. All you need to add is your soil and your seeds, and away you go. So thanks again to Mars Hydro for sponsoring the First Layer. There we go.
Absolutely. Bills are paid. Dollar bills.
Yeah, dollar bills, y'all. Yeah, I know people are asking, what the heck does indoor growing have to do with 3D printing? We've got a lot of episodes coming up on that real soon. Because, it's getting to be close to spring around here. And you have the same problem over at your house. Our snow is melting right now. And, we could get a little bit more snow. So why not start your seedlings in the house and in a controlled environment? So,
absolutely.
Yeah. And we're going to be covering a lot of that coming up on the show. So do we have another question, Jerry? Oh, okay. All right, then. Yeah, let's get to that Ender 3 problem. On a Core XY with motors to the back, what's the best set for Core XY end stop, X-Min or X-Max? Mine are all set to X-Min on my my Voron, so X-Min I think is the right answer to that.
Just an audio note there for you, Richard. I think there's a bit of I think it's maybe whatever you call this type of positional mic or whatever it's called.
This one?
When you're off to the side like this,
yeah,
there's a bit of drop.
Yeah,
so,
I figured that much.
Sure.
That's why I normally use this one, but today I'm using this one.
Oh, adding a Wham Bam Mutant to my Ender 3. Anything to watch out for? I actually have one of those right on my Ender 3 right here, actually.
Good, because I don't know what a Mutant 3 is. I know what a Wham Bam is.
Oh, yeah, Wham Bam. I don't know what a Mutant is either. But Honestly, as long as you know what Richard set your Z height appropriately, and level your bed.
Yeah.
Make sure it's clean. Wipe it down with some IPA. This isn't Wham Bam, but it's spring steel. It's the same kind of stuff.
Okay.
And yeah, I'll have to Google what that means by mutant. Unless it's a typo.
How is Mike? Jeff's asking about Mike. I'm not sure who you're talking about. Okay.
Mark? Maybe you meant Mark.
Could be. On my 4.2.7 board, I had an uncomment move Z when idle to stop it from disconnecting the Z stepper with the CR Touch. That's interesting to know, Tom Taylor. I'm not sure what they've done with that CR Touch. I haven't got one in studio. I should probably order myself one off Amazon because I don't think they're that much. But the CR Touch, I think, is it's basically a clone of the BL Touch, from what I understand. But they've done something.
It's like a clone of the first one in that it has the metal pin.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, so with the Ender 3, I think I have a 4.2.2 board in there, and I didn't have to change anything in the firmware, so that's interesting. But I mean, that's not uncommon that you have to do something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So and Tim's. Go ahead.
Maybe that just forced the issue on that, where before it was just dropping to that Z limit, and that was it. Maybe you just uncovered a problem too.
Yeah.
By the way, we need to make a slight correction. Sorry, just jump in. The Wham Bam Mutant is actually a universal tool swapping system. I'm just looking at it here. I have seen this before, but I've never used it personally, so I couldn't really comment on that. I haven't heard any bad things about it. So
yeah, I haven't heard really much about it at all.
Yeah, give it a try and let us know how it goes on the TFL Facebook.
Yeah, so it's there to be used to swap hot ends, as Dennis Kelly is saying. So
yeah,
it's a tool swapper.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I'll reach out to Wham Bam, see if they'll send me one.
Yeah, it looks like the little lock mechanism there looks akin to like a ZIF zero insertion force type scenario. So
gotcha.
Looks a good design, at least on the inspection.
There we go. Alrighty. What else we got going on here? Just asking who you two are so I can maybe stop talking about my printer. Well, I've been doing this show now for 4 years, teaching people how to use their 3D printer, and that's pretty much my qualifications. I got into 3D printing about 6 years ago, and there was nobody out there doing what I was wanting to do, and that was to teach people how to 3D print, use their tools to the most efficient way possible. While everybody was, look what I made with that printer and some filament, and have a nice day. So yeah, I was a little miffed when I got into 3D printing that there wasn't a lot of help out there. There were channels out there, but there weren't a lot of help out there. So I learned on my own, and I know Morgan from when I had my studio over at School 3D here in Calgary, and now we became friends over the years, and he fills in for Brian every once in a while.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw that price point drop. I had a particular use case in mind, and I was like, "This is silly. Why am I going to spend all this money to buy this one thing when I can print? I can have a printer that'll print hundreds of these things, for example."
Right.
So yeah, did some research. Bought a CR-10S right away before I just took the plunge, and had some challenges there. I think I found your show first, and then I went to visit you at your brick and mortar location, and had a great chat. And absolutely, yeah, been enjoying working with you ever since. So it's been a great hobby to get into, and it's just a lot of fun, a lot of mine.
I mean, I love it. There's always something new to print, and there's talented artists out there that are putting out models like crazy. And I love some of the stuff that, brings me back to the day when I was a kid, because, it was hard to get models like the X-Wing,
Yeah.
for instance, as I got into my adult years. They were plentiful when I was, 12, 13 years old, but,
Yeah.
finding that model kit or any of those classic model kits, pretty hard to find. But now we're in an age where we can manufacture those kits ourselves, and that's where 3D printing really became kind of a staple for me, because I was doing a little bit of prop work at the beginning, and I decided that 3D printing might be a better way to do props instead of, gluing sticks on other sticks and pieces of plastic and fabric wherever I needed to, and 3D printing really solved that problem.
And it's so great if you have some of those vintage pieces that they just are out of production, but you might have lost one, or you found a model, lost a piece for it, or broke a piece for it, and you found the model for it. You dial in your printer, you print it to the exact specs, and boom, you've got that piece back. You're back in action.
Somebody was asking about the Discord really quick. I want to touch on that. The Discord is still available. It's still live. Brian is kind of in charge of the Discord, so he's on a little hiatus right now, and we wish him all the best while he's on that, and a quick recovery. Things are happening in his personal life, so we're not going to get into that. But at the end of the day, he will be back, and the Discord will be back up and running. I typically don't have time to be on the Discord. I have so much going on right now. I'll be over at Peter Reynolds tomorrow, helping him get started building his Voron 4.2. And then Tuesday, I got to go out to Airdrie to the school and repair a couple of Ender 3 printers out there. So yeah, I'm all over the place and trying to keep up. So Jeff, TFL is the best source for practical knowledge and advice on the 3D printing hobby. Thank you very much, Snapshot FPV. I appreciate that, man. You guys have given us
Absolutely.
a lot of love over the years, and we appreciate it 100%. We started the Facebook so that people could go in there and help one another, because I'm not always in there. My schedule is so busy now. I've got 2 shows I'm recording and doing a live stream for this one every Sunday. So, I've kind of doubled my workload.
Yeah, and I'm putting this in the chat, but I'll try and hop in that Discord. I usually have Discord running during the day anyways, so
Gotcha.
I'll just be around there. It's fine.
DeWitt says we're the best 3D community on social media. Thank you very much, DeWitt. Our good friend Tim, who's been on the show on occasion. And I got to tell you, Tim is a great guy, and he's got some great printers, and I keep meaning to go over to be on his show, because he's only like 10 minutes from the house. But he's not far. Unlike Morgan, who's way down in the deep south.
Yep. It's warmer down here, don't you know?
We've got World Planet Gadget says, I have now an Ender 3 Pro. I'm happy with it, but want to get a resin printer for the smaller prints in the Anycubic 3D Photon Mono SE 3D printer. Good for beginner. I like it. It's a decent enough 3D printer. My preferred printer is either the Creality resin printer or the Phrozen resin printer. The Phrozen Sonic Mini, I love that thing. Now they've got a Phrozen Sonic Mini 4K, which gives you huge resolution. So your prints come out so much nicer.
Whatever you go with, you can also do a really quick upgrade and throw on a Wham Bam flex plate or other generic flex plates. Those are so great when you have those prints that take up so much of the build volume and you just don't want to mess with it. It just pops off. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Save you from having to, spatula underneath that thing. No. Pop, you're done.
I've done that a couple of times and then jabbed myself in the hand.
Yeah. Nailed it. Yep.
Okay, first layer, any experience with CF-PLA? Seems like a much cheaper alternative to CF nylon, and maybe easier to print too. CF-PLA, I have some experience with it. It depends who you buy it from. The product will vary greatly depending on who you buy it from. Our first recommendation, of course, is Matter 3D, and I know that they're coming out with carbon fiber PLA or carbon fiber reinforced PLA. and it's going to be really cool stuff. We'll see a roll in here when it finally goes live to the public, and then we'll do some printing with it. Show you guys.
I think I have a roll of it. I'll have to confirm that.
I think you got one of the early rolls.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, just like anything with Matter 3D, it prints well, clog free, as long as your settings are dialed in. Of course, with that one, you'd want to make sure to use a hardened steel nozzle, Rich?
Yeah, absolutely. If you're going
to use brass with that, brass nozzles will just get bigger and bigger and bigger.
No I had a brass nozzle right here on my desk just a few minutes ago. Of course, I started cleaning up my desk and I can't find it anymore. Typical.
Of course.
Typical. But yeah, at any rate, I would get a hardened steel nozzle or stainless steel nozzle. Either one of those. Do not use a brass nozzle if you're going to use any kind of filament that has an additive in it. And that includes glow-in-the-dark, wood, carbon fiber, any of those things that are inside the filament.
There's those glitter ones.
Yeah.
Anything that's got something that's just not the base material.
Yeah, and you're going to have to print probably a little bit hotter to make sure that things are flowing out of that nozzle. The other thing about nozzles that you should be aware of is that if you're going to print something that has an additive in it, I would first and foremost get myself a little bit bigger of a nozzle. So go from a 0.4 to a 0.6. That's going to be the best way to do it, and then you'll avoid 90% of clog that you may get by using that material. All right. I like that. What he said. What else we got going on here? Oops, glow in the dark. Thanks. Yeah, glow in the dark. The funny thing that people don't understand about glow in the dark, they all think that it's a chemical-based product. It's not. It is actually a stone product. There's stone that naturally is luminescent in the dark. Mm-hmm. And that's what glow in the dark is made from. It's crushed down to a powder, but it is stone. And when it goes into filament, it quickly takes a brass nozzle and widens that hole really, really big. And then before you know it, it's just blobbing out of there, and you give me a call. One thing about wood that I've discovered, and I've printed a lot of it with a 0.4 nozzle, is that those fibers that are in wood, they will actually get stuck in the nozzle and clog things up fairly quickly. So go to a 0.5 or a 0.6 nozzle if you can.
Definitely do that. I can attest to that. You'll lose a little bit in resolution, but it'll be worth it in not clogging and failed prints and all that jazz.
And if you're printing in wood, for instance, you don't really need that fine a finish on it, because the nice thing about wood PLA or any of the wood composites that are out there is they sand beautifully. Yes, the plastic is the binder that holds all that wood together, but it prints and sands beautifully if you've got the right nozzle. Now, when you sand it, you can also stain the wood, because you're opening up those fibers by sanding away that plastic sort of covering that's on it. So think about that when you're going to print with anything like wood. Carbon fiber, a lot of the misconception that people have about carbon fiber is that it prints like carbon fiber. And if you've ever seen carbon fiber, it sort of weaves itself across like a weave. Unlike fiberglass, which is either matte or pull apart stuff, or cloth or matte is the two. But you're never going to get that weave, polycarbonate, or even carbon fiber. You're not going to get that weave when you print. It's not going to be visible because they're laying down with the plastic. All those fibers are laying down in the plastic. So as opposed to going, weaving like this, they're all going like this. So does it make your product stronger? Not necessarily. A lot of people take that as a misconception, because carbon fiber, they feel that the weave, the stuff they see on cars and on, other cool stuff, that it's going to have that strength. It just does not have the same strength. So be aware of that if you're looking at carbon fiber, guys.
Yeah, I just want to throw in this real quick.
Yep.
Save some time with sanding. These are called cabinet scrapers. They're thin pieces of metal, but on their edges, it has just enough of a blade. It's not going to hurt you. It's not sharp, but it has enough of a blade to take down, those filament layers, and it saves you a lot in sanding time. In fact, half the time, I get the smoothness I want. I don't even need to sand anymore, unless there's little niggly bits in there. But these are great. They're like $30 on Amazon. You get like 3 of them for all kinds of different shapes.
Oh yeah, those are great.
Fantastic.
Ben Eady actually brought that up one time, and he actually did a whole video on using them. He actually came to my place to get the helmet that he could use in the video because I had a helmet. But that being said, I mean, you're absolutely right. Using those prior to going and using any kind of filler primer or any plastic wood or anything like that to do your filling, take those scrapers and by all means go over your project with that. Unless you got something like a figure that you can't get in there and do that with, then of course you're going to have to find another way, and that's probably going to be sanding with higher grit sandpaper. But the other thing I want you guys to keep in mind is that if you are going to use those scrapers, remember you're removing material, and you can remove too much material and get to the inside very easily. So when you're printing stuff like helmets or armor or any kind of cosplay stuff, you want to use those scrapers, add a little bit of thickness to your walls. So if you've got 3 walls, add another wall. It's not going to hurt anything. It's just going to take up on the inside. It's not going to increase the outside. So
yeah, and that way you're not going to go through into your infill and then have to fill it and resand it, and what a mess.
And that can be a bit of a pain in the butt.
Definitely. It's cold down here.
Peter Reynolds is saying you can get them at Lee Valley Tools here in Canada as well.
Yes.
There was a question that. Can you bring that question back up? About. The 350, 350 volume. There we go. Any opinions on the capacity difference between the Voron Trident and the 2.4? Ideally, I want 350 by 350 by 350. I haven't seen the Trident. I think the Trident's only a mod for the 2.4, if I'm not mistaken. It's been a while since I've looked at that website, but the 2.4 350 by 350 by 350 is going to be a lot of volume for you. It's a little bit easier, and I think you can make the upgrade to the Trident if you really, really want to. I think that has a lot to do with the hot end, more so than anything else on that setup. So, 2.4 is ideal.
You're still coming from the spec design from vorondesign.com, so you're just going to be inheriting that spec design. It's sort of like your own preference, your own flavor.
Okay, Hun, can we bring up that Mr. from Matt Costor? Matt Costor. Hello, Matt Costor. You must be new here.
Earlier, that ANET, you were thinking of that earlier.
ANET, that's the one, Printed his Mr. Baddeley R2 dome with it, but wanted a print and go machine, so he's on the Prusa XL waiting list. Prusa XL, nice machine. No doubt about it. It's a nice machine. I just don't... In the age of printers now, I just don't think it's worth the money, if that makes sense. I applaud Joseph for everything that he's done for the community. I just don't see that the XL is a big innovation or a big step forward for that company.
Yeah, well, and we could talk briefly here also about just Prusa in general. They're obviously quite a bit more than the rest of the marketplace in that hobby space, if you will. A question for you on that, though. So, are you simply doing a trade-off where you invest more initially on the upfront price tag, so there's reduced downtime, reduced maintenance, reduced whatever? Is that really? Are you likely to see that investment returned, or is it just you're just paying for a brand name?
I don't think you're going to see that return itself anytime soon. I think that if you went with something, and I know I keep saying Creality, but in all honesty, guys, Creality has the best budget printers for the market right now. Hands down.
Yeah, and especially if you can grab an Ender 3 or whatever version for around $100 price point, somewhere in there, you're laughing.
Yeah, if you can find a used Ender 3, even if you can find a used CR-10. I mean, a used CR-10, you're getting 12 inches by 12 inches by 16 inches in build height. So you've got a fairly sizable machine at that stage. I mean, the next stage up would be going to a 400 by 400 or a 500 by 500. If you wanted to have something that did multiple materials, then your best investment, but not for a noob, I hate to say it that way, your best investment would be the Voron 2.4, because that thing is just a beast once it starts going. Mine hasn't broken down at all since I got it up and running. I still have to put the sides on it, but it prints great, and the smoothness off that thing is unbelievable.
Yeah, and just going back to your point, Richard, learning on a relatively simple machine like the Ender 3, you're going to figure out all the basics of it, all the mechanics, and you're going to understand it without something like this thing behind me here, running dual extruders. There's people that have bought that for their first printer, and I'm sorry, that's just a mistake, because you're going to have assumptions, or you're going to do things that you just didn't realize are actually going to harm it, and then you are going to have a damaged printer, and your printer's not going to run, and you're going to be upset about that. And there's lots of people I read all the time, these bigger printers, whatever, with more bells and whistles on them, they just don't understand them, and the information on the websites or their documentation sites, it's okay, but it's not the best. And the other point about a printer like the Ender 3 to learn on is you've got so much help. There's so many people that have them. There's so many people that are experts on them, and they run print farms with them, 20, 40 machines running the same time. Why? Because it's consistent, it's simple, it's easy to fix. It's I don't know, a Honda car. It's just, you're going to find parts everywhere for it, and you're not going to pay an arm and a leg for it. So
exactly.
Learn on something like that.
We've got Raymond Cleveland, my brother, in the house. I just see him there, and he's just getting his Ender 5 Pro. He phoned me the other day, and we were talking a little bit about it. He got his auto bed leveler before he got the actual printer, so I think he's got the printer now. But
nice.
It's really cool that he got that. A Vape Geek is going, Morgan.
Shout out to you, Vape Geek. I'm not sure who you are, but I suspect you know who I am, so that's cool.
There you go.
Hopefully it's 420 soon, if that's what you're doing. Or whatever.
Oh, it's a long way from 420.
Herbs.
Jeff Matthewson, he says, I have 2 print heads, the second being the steel one. So I'm just wondering if I should just use that one for all my prints. That's what I do. I very seldomly use brass anymore, unless just a printer that's going to be printing PLA. Yeah, everything that I have is hardened steel or stainless steel. What about you?
Sorry, I missed the question.
He says he has 2 print heads, the second being the steel one. He says, I'm just wondering if I should just use that one for all print.
Yeah, I mean, it's a midpoint, especially with your price point there. So if you don't want to go, pay for the hardened steel or the high end nozzles, the stainless steel is going to get you in that space without the big price. Big price tag. So you can't go wrong.
He says he worked with you at Shaw.
Yeah, that still could be a lot of people. I was there 13 years, so.
Oh wow.
We'll see what he says or she says. They say.
There you go.
Whoever you are,
Okay, so where are we in that? I think we got everybody so far. Yeah, so my brother bought the Ender 5 Pro.
Nice.
Which one did you have up? Oh, Dominic Versetto's. This is actually one I wanted to cover, and then I'll get back to my brother. Dominic says, yes, aware of that. Some said the 2.4 bed can be fussy to tram. to the overall build. I don't know if that's a common issue or a real problem. It's really not. Here's the thing about a Voron. As long as everything is square, and I mean everything is square, putting on, when you get that 8mm thick slab of aluminum from Forvertech, like I think I got mine from Forvertech out of Germany, it was really easy. I just basically put my switch in place. Then I just made sure that it was equal distance off the front and it was square. Because it's got little indents to where all the screws sit down, and it's really hard to get it out of square. But again, it comes down to making sure that you've measured everything, making sure that that frame and those rails that it sits on are perfectly square to one another, and they have the proper space. If they don't, you're going to be in trouble. And that's the big thing that people do when they get kits like this, is that a lot of them will rush to get it put together, and they'll watch 7 different guys' videos on putting it together, because I know I did when I got mine. And they'll find that something just doesn't seem right, and that's because of the way that they have things slotted or put on. Is you're using blind fasteners, so none of the fasteners stick out anywhere. So when you're building that frame, you're actually going through the extrusion and into the piece that you need to be in. And then the problem with it ends up that if those two angles aren't perfectly square to one another at 90 degrees, one's slightly out like this, you're going to throw the whole thing off. And again, it comes down to using the right tools. Make sure you have a small carpenter square or some cabinet squares, and you should be fine. Build that thing, you'll have no problem as long as everything's square. All right. Did I get it? Am I good? Oh, here's another one. Is a 0.6 nozzle 50% faster than a 0.4mm nozzle? No, it's not. Because your plastic is still flowing at the same rate. So if you're printing at 45 millimeters per second, you're printing at 45 millimeters per second, regardless of the size of the nozzle. So it's not going to be any faster. It can be faster if you up that time. What it's going to do is it's going to use more material to accomplish the same job. Okay, so be aware of that. It's not going to make it faster. It's going to use more material. Now, with a 0.6 nozzle, you can probably go up a little bit in your speed. So that's where you're going to gain your print time. You're also going to gain it in the fact that it is putting down wider lines, but you're not going to get 50% faster. Not at all.
And just iterate. So figure out what your settings are by doing small cube tests or whatnot. Or you can even do towers where you change,
Yep.
you change speeds or flow rates or whatever you want to change there, and just test, and then once you've got it, do a small 2-hour print, and then you're nailed in there, and you can print your big one. That'll save you a lot of wasted time and effort and material.
Oh, Vape Geek says, I sold him an Ender 3 a few years ago. Small world. It is.
Richard sold. Yeah, you sold him. Yeah.
Probably
Still no
down
name yet, but it's gonna stay anonymous.
It's going to stay anonymous. He's
Vape Geek. Did we work in the operations center, or did we just part of the larger Shaw group there? You can answer that for me, and then I've got you pretty much pegged, I think.
all right. What else we got here? We've got Jeff. He says, anyway, I've been waiting for years to get a printer, mostly waiting for HP to come to the home market, yet never did, so moved to Keedy. Well, hey, you got a Keedy Tech, you got a printer.
You got what you got.
You got what you got, man. And my first printer was a Hicktop 3D P08. I'm never going to forget that model number. It was the biggest piece of shit. Pardon my language, but I don't swear very often on this show. So, that being said, it probably took about $250 over and above the price of the printer to get it to run half decently. And then from there, I just had a friend of mine laser cut me some frames, and I built basically a Prusa clone. All right. Jeff says, the only issue I have with my second printer head is that if I want to use it, then I got to take apart the printer as well. You got the idea? I got the idea. I know what that's like, having to take things apart. I've got one back here that still I have to put the new head on, which is right here.
We've all got one just waiting to do stuff, and then, there's one down there just hanging out.
There you go.
So, yeah, it's also about, you get your printers, more than one obviously, and then you have to spend time repairing many to one of them. So I'm down to just one printer, one FDM right now. So it's always a battle.
Superconductor is wanting us to do how about doing a video series or stream on an Ender 3 Pro V2 to a Voron switch wire conversion. I actually have a printer in mind for that. And it's not going to be an Ender 3, but it'll be an Ender 3-like printer that I'm going to convert to a switch wire.
Okay, I have no concept. What is switch wire?
Switch wire is basically the equivalent of an Ender 3. The bonus is that it uses a Raspberry Pi to power everything, and then uses like a big tree board to handle all of the movement. So the Raspberry Pi handles all of the heavy lifting, but it's smaller. So it's on a much smaller scale than, say, the V4.2. So it's about that Ender size, but you can fully enclose it. The way that they've designed it, it can be fully enclosed, and it's just a really cool printer.
And so I'm just going to keep going with the devil's advocate, if you don't mind.
Sure.
What's the advantage to doing that over conventional 3D printers in the same space?
Because of the way that they've set up the switch wire, very similar to the Voron in a lot of ways, it is a Core XZ, not a Core XY, it's Core XZ. So the head and the Z all travel together.
Right.
Whereas on
fewer
a Core
movements.
fewer movement. So you can print faster, and you can print more reliably.
Yeah, more accurately, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, Dominic's asking, switch wire is a Core XZ. Yes, Core XZ. There's some great videos out there on the Voron, and I encourage everybody to go out and watch them if you really want to know more about building the Voron.
Yeah, it's definitely been on ever since you guys started firing up there. Was it last
year?
Last fall?
Yeah.
I'm definitely keen. I have no space for such a beast right now, but once I get to my new place, that's going to be the first build.
You're not in the new house yet?
Nope. Still
in a rental.
Temporary housing. Yeah.
Oh,
our latest estimate is July. So, yep. But that's my birthday month, so maybe it'll be in time for my birthday.
Hey, couldn't ask for a better Christmas or birthday present.
Yep.
So we've got a few others going on here. No more questions, it looks like. Yes, you can get faster Z-hop or Z-hop. Yep. Okay, let's put up this one from Snapshot FPV, honey. He says, we all enjoy the hobby for ourselves, setting aside items you're asked to make. How often were others not in the hobby truly impressed with that, what you've made? You know, the funny thing about the hobby is some people have been in it for a long time. Some people are new to it. Some people jumped on the bandwagon when I started the show and have been following the show. And I've seen all kinds of new people come into this space in the 4 years that I've been doing videos for it. And there is all kinds of reasons why people go out and buy 3D printers. One of my clients, just the other day, who was here picking up some filament, asked me about what he thought he should do about getting a new 3D printer. And because the 3D printer he bought from me, which was one of my older ones, he just turned around and is using that thing 24/7. So he needs another printer because he can't keep up with the demand for what he's got 3D printing. So, some people want to do it for toys. Some people want to do it for tchotchkes. Some people want to do it for a hobby, like building an R2-D2 or a full-size R2-D2. It all depends on what your needs are. I've seen people come in with great intentions and then sell their printers 3-4 months later because the novelty wore off.
Yeah, I think if I can just loop in here too, you might find that you want a certain printer for a certain purpose or maybe a certain material even.
Mm-hmm.
And then so you want a tool up for that. And for me, this one where you see a heat gun on it here, not that one, the other one, because I can't figure this out. My brain can't process this mirror. But like I've set that one up for more high temperature printing, larger volume, bigger nozzle, to get those not only parts but also to get those bigger items done faster. So it's kind of a bit of a dual purpose there. But I know that I can just take that use case to that printer,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'm good to go. Versus this other one over here, it's a little more sort of with the dual. I can do two things at once, or I can have dissolvable supports, or I can do dual colors. It's a little more in the artistic space, for example, just because that's how I've done it. But I mean, as many as there are people almost, or ways of doing things that you can think of, there's probably a printer to match it. Different mediums. There's clay printers. You can print with chocolate now for if you needed another reason to eat chocolate.
Yeah.
But I mean, hey, there's just so much innovation in this space, and that's why if you're a technologist at all, or if you're a hobbyist, or just have any interest in any, you're a tinkerer, for example, you're a maker, you keep seeing lots and lots of different reasons to keep growing in this space, really.
Yeah. Aaron Cox says, I have a CR-10S and added a BL Touch. The prints start at the forward left corner now. How do I re-enter it? They're starting like down in the front left corner. If that's happening, you may have a firmware issue, because I've seen that when people haven't engaged or haven't enabled the BL Touch, or they've downloaded the wrong firmware from Creality. I would go back and check the CR-10S BL Touch firmware. Make sure you get that, and it should be just fine. Also, check your slicer. If your slicer doesn't have those commands in it, like the G29 command, then you could be off to a bad start as well.
So you're talking about the startup G code there for in your slicer, correct, Richard?
Yes. Yeah, your start G code.
Yeah.
There we go. So I think we pretty much covered it. Wow, we're actually going to be done on time. Oh, this is from the Dog 08. The Dog. My 3D printers have little dots in the sidewalls on a specific place. Little dots. Do they look like zits? Because if there's zits, that means that's where it's starting and stopping to do that particular layer. And it's squeezing out a little bit too much plastic. You may have a retraction issue, so I would check to see how much retraction you have set in your slicer. And you can avoid that by just adding a little bit more retraction. You probably don't have enough. It's leaving a little dot of plastic as it makes a direction change. What do you think?
Check in your slicer too and see what your Z seam is set to. Your Z seam is simply, to your Richard's point, where the starting point and ending point of that layer is. If it appears to be in basically a vertical line going down the print, then it's exactly that. But it could be set to random, in which case it would just be totally random and might look like that So anyways, you could change that setting if it is, for example, random. Change it to back, I think is one of the options.
Yeah.
And then it'll produce that line at least, and then you'll know if it was Z-seam or what Richard is talking about.
Yeah, and if you're getting little holes, that's minor under extrusion. So when it's making that change, it's pulled that plastic too far back up into the head, and then it's pushing it back down in order to force it through the nozzle. So that's where you could be getting those little holes too. So make sure that you've got that looked at. Make sure that you've got your slicer set with the right retraction.
Yeah.
Because if you've got holes, that's usually where you get them from.
Just to clarify, little holes do not sound like what I was talking about with the Z-seam.
Well, no, if you've got a random Z-seam and you've got too much retraction, it's going to pull that plastic back up a little too far. And then when it's starting, it's trying to push it back down. So it's going to leave that little tiny gap in it. So, yeah, I would definitely go ahead and check my retraction first and foremost. So we've got time for a couple more quick questions. Matt Kasdorf. Gary, bring up his. My daughters want their own 3D printer. Any suggestions for an inexpensive first printer for them with some dad support? Honestly, an Ender 3.
But also, how old are they? So, I mean, I'm assuming you're asking for, I don't know, kids who are cooking presumably at their own at this point, like, because they're going to be around hot materials, or obviously you're going to need to do adult supervision there. So,
yeah.
But yeah, it's a lot of the, again, marketing. I've seen, those printers that are, touted as, kid machines, and they have the whole, file download system, and that's all great, but they're garbage. Bottom line, they're just basically garbage. There's a lot of plastic materials in the components, so on and so forth, and they'll run for a little bit, and then you're throwing them in the garbage. So absolutely.
Yeah, I would agree with that 100%. Verify that they're doing something like this in school first.
10 to 14, okay.
Yeah, 10 to 14, that works. Yeah, then they're at definitely that right age.
It's a good size build volume.
Yeah.
It's not too big, it's not too small. It doesn't take up a lot of space, and to our earlier points, it's very serviceable. So
it's got some dad features for sure. Peter Reynolds, hit the like button if you guys are enjoying the show. Thank you very much, Peter. I forgot to mention that. If you're getting something out of today's show, by all means, hit that like button and leave us a comment after the show down in the comments section, because that goes to helping out our algorithm, and it gets us shown in more places than we normally would. So it'll start to appear on other people's new timelines. We're going to be doing some 3D printing coming up here real quick for doing your summer gardening. We're going to start things in the house, and we're going to show you how we fixed up the tent from our sponsor Mars Hydro, because they sent us a light in the tent, and we're going to grow some vegetables in there. So what did you want to put in there, honey? Some basil and parsley. Parsley and basil are going into the first thing that we 3D printed.
Before we time out here, I just want to try and answer this question from
Sure.
Superconductor. It says, thoughts about using X braces on your racks to stabilize when all your printers are going at once. So if I could pan out on this camera, I would, but you would see these, I think they're called Gorilla racks or something like that. They're very strong steel. Look at them online, just Google it. There is not an X brace, but there is a N brace, which goes from the lower rack on the end to the midpoint on the top rack. I have 4 printers running. There is minimal movement because the board running across here is basically absorbing a lot of those jerks and so on and so forth. One option you can do, rather than maybe an X brace, if you have a system like this, would be to actually, you can buy those patio cement blocks and put those underneath it. It'll absorb all those vibrations. And the other option too is if you're getting that much crazy vibrations, just turn down the speed.
Yeah. Also, you can put those rubber mats that you can find at just about anywhere. They interlock together. You can put those down underneath your printers. They all help absorb some of that shock.
This rack holds over 1,000 pounds, I think, or maybe even 1,400 or something like that. Like it's a great investment if you're doing 3D printing.
Dominic's grandson wants to show how to print spaghetti. Well, that's a great note to end the show on today. That's for sure. If you've got the filament to waste,
just start printing in midair.
There you go. Hey, thanks everybody for joining us today on this Sunday afternoon. Hopefully you're all doing well, whatever part of the world you are in. I want to thank Morgan Pierce for showing up today and helping me out with the show. Morgan, you'll see a little bit more of him until Brian is ready to come back. And we'll keep going forward. We'll see you guys this coming week with a new video on Wednesday and for our members. And we will be doing a live stream probably the first part of February. I promise it won't be on the 14th because I know you guys that have wives and girlfriends know what the 14th means, right? More money out of your pocket. And not for you.
No, definitely not. No, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me on today, Richard. And I hope to come back soon and chat with everybody. It's a great community we have here, so I'm really enjoying it.
We have the best community.
Absolutely.
Now, until we see you guys next time, remember that the first layer is always your foundation to a great print. Till next time.
Take care.
And we out.